Have you ever found yourself reaching for another sugary snack, knowing full well that it's not what your soul really needs or your body? Isn't it sometimes like sugar has a secret hold over us? Imagine breaking free from that grip without the shame and all the while nurturing your spirit. That's what we're going to look at in today's episode on 7 grace-filled steps to detox from sugar without the shame spiral. Are you struggling with stubborn belly fat, brain fog, or low energy? Do you want simple, lasting health solutions that actually work and honour your faith? Hi, I'm Laura Hargrave, Master Certified Nutritionist, best-selling author, and health coach with over 20 years of experience helping believers like you go from tired and stuck to vibrant, lean, and spirit-led. In this podcast, I blend biblical wisdom, science, and a less is more approach to help you burn fat, boost energy, and restore your body as God's temple. So grab your green tea or your walking shoes and take a few minutes to grow in wisdom that will bless you for years to come. Welcome to Health in Faith. Welcome back to another episode of Health in Faith. If you're new here, then you're very welcome, and I would encourage you to subscribe because these podcasts are released weekly and I'm going to have a ton of really helpful information, data, wisdom, knowledge for you over the coming weeks and months. I've got a lot in store, lots planned out, and it's really going to help you in not only your physical health and natural health, but in your faith walk with the Lord. You know, there's many nutritionists out there, there's many so-called health gurus, there's doctors, there's naturopaths, there's functional medicine folk. Very, very few actually do it from a deep-rooted faith angle. Do you see that? Like, if you've ever looked for a health practitioner that is actually a Christian, then they're few and far between. They're kind of rare gems. And that was the reason that I set up this podcast, Eternal Health, how many years ago? 7 years ago. Took a break under COVID to write a book on COVID and the implications for the church. And then felt the Lord speak to me clearly at the beginning of this year saying, restart the podcast, rebrand it, Health in Faith. So I would encourage you, subscribe. Do share this with Christian friends, brothers and sisters in the Lord. It's completely free, so you've got nothing to lose, a ton of stuff to gain. I tell you, I've got knowledge that can help you, and I say that with humility. The Lord has really given me an unction to not only research this, but to bring this to the body of Christ. I used to work with anyone and everyone. The last few years, I've really focused in on serving the body of Christ. So it would be my joy to help you and serve you. Now, today we're going to be talking sugar. And to say up front, if you want a simple plan to put this into action, how to detox, not necessarily giving up sugar absolutely for good and going cold turkey or anything like that. But if you just want a bit of a break, you want tools and strategies to enable you to cut any sugar addictions and to allow your body to detox somewhat, then do go and grab my free Sugar Detox in Faith plan, which is at my website, healthinfaith.com. It will give you 7 simple, very practical steps to reduce sugar and quit sugar addiction for good, whilst still enjoying sweet foods. And I'll remind you again at the end. So healthinfaith.com/sugar detox. You can grab that for free. So let me be real, as a nutritionist, I've coached so many Christian women who love God, read their Bibles, and feel completely stuck in the grip of sugar. They are overweight, they have these constant, what I call blood sugar roller coasters going on, up and down of mood and weight and addiction and blood sugar and insulin and all of that. And they just hate it and they feel somewhat powerless. Doesn't have to be that way, and we're going to cover that in this episode. I also covered a slightly different angle to overcoming sugar addiction in episode 6 of Health in Faith last time, so go back and listen to that one too. And that episode is 7 Holy Spirit-led steps to finally stop craving sugar. So I used to be somewhat addicted to sugar also. When I was a marathon runner, then I would regularly eat multiple chocolate bars in a day. I did that for quite a few years. And in my case, I think probably as much as anything, I was trying to find food satisfaction from high carbohydrates, which as runners, we're told you need to carb up, you need to carb up, you need carbohydrates to fuel your runs. As a nutritionist and, another, decade and a half into my practice, I understand that we can we can really overload our body with carbs. And I was a vegan at the time, so rather than eating meat and dairy foods, I was replacing that with more sugar, more carbohydrates. So that really wasn't good. And I'm so glad the Lord brought me out of veganism when he did, almost 8 years ago now. It really helped a lot when I came out of veganism, but I also realized that God is always inviting us into more freedom in him. So we can turn to things, these vapid things, sugar, shopping, TV programs, whatever it might be. They're so fleeting. They really are quite vapid, as Solomon talks about in Ecclesiastes. Vanity, all is vanity. And, when we actually think about it, really we're hoping that sugar is going to give us some kind of real satisfaction. It makes no sense. And we know that it doesn't, but nonetheless, it's an easy, quick thing that we do. And that really is the hallmark of addiction, when we know it's not good for us, we know it's not helping us, we know it's actually detrimental to us, but yet we feel compelled and impulsive to do it anyway. That's one of the definitions of addiction. So firstly, before we get into the 7 steps, for me at least, it was the realization that God is always inviting us into more freedom in him, as I just said. And that will give you a mindset shift that will enable the nuts and bolts of various steps and practices and habits we can do. It will give us the right foundation. If we have all the tools out there, but we don't have the right mindset or approach or attitude, then it's very, very unlikely that it's going to work. But on the other hand, if we have the right attitude, the right posture, the right, approach to our faith, then we can have mediocre tools and strategies and still succeed. Lamentations 3 says, his mercies are new every morning. That means that your health journey, my health journey, all of our health journey isn't graded on perfection. It's guided by grace and step at a time and over time making progress. So I've lived on both ends of the spectrum, extremes and obsession, and then the pendulum swung, and what finally worked for me wasn't a stricter plan. It was shifting to stewardship over striving and letting grace set the pace. And it's worked for me. I've also coached many, many other people in this, and it's really succeeded for them. So I was speaking to one of my clients earlier this week, Julia, and the way we've approached, we're doing one-to-one coaching together, and she struggled with food and diet and weight for years. And she's saying to me, well, I'm not even doing all of what you say 100%, but I'm still losing weight and it's really effortless. And I said, is it depriving, Julia? Is it? No, not at all, she says. It's easy. So it just goes to show that with the right plan, the right approach, we can get results effortlessly. And I'm not using hyperbole there. It is literally effortless with the right approach. And on that, feel free to book a one-to-one call with me, a metabolic breakthrough consultation at a heavily discounted price still at the moment, but the price is going up soon. So book your hour with me and we'll talk through this stuff for you and your situation. You can do that at healthinfaith.com. Okay, so step 1, how to detox from sugar without the shame spiral. Start with grace, not rules. So Romans 8:1 says there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Shame fuels secret eating. It fuels all or nothing cycles. It fuels guilt and perfectionism, all of which are very destructive and are not going to help you in your effort to break any sugar addiction or detoxify from sugar or anything else for that matter. Whereas grace fuels honesty and it fuels steady progress. So just think of what's coming to mind is a stock chart, like stocks and shares. Has it ever in the history of stocks and shares, I would imagine it's never gone straight up, has it? It goes up, it goes down, it goes up a bit more, it goes down a bit more, it goes up loads, it goes down a little bit. Our journeys have to be somewhat like that. Now, as long as the overall trajectory is going up, we're doing well. But we're not robots. We are human beings. We live in the world. We live with an enemy against us, especially if we're following the Lord and seeking to do that wholeheartedly. And we have a sin nature within us. So, even the most disciplined person out there is never going to achieve everything that they set out to do perfectly. So remember that. Grace has to be the posture from which we approach our detoxing from sugar journey. So why not pray regularly something like, Lord, thank you for your fresh mercies this day. Help me to walk in freedom, not perfection. You could write Romans 8:1 on a sticky note and keep it on your fridge. I know people who've done that, and it's a help. Step 2. Stabilize your blood sugar early in the day. Have you ever noticed how one sweet treat, especially early on in the day, can give you this quick burst of energy only to leave you feeling sluggish and craving more soon after? Sugar and carbohydrates in general, but even more so sugar, is like taking some little twigs and throwing them on a fire. There's this instant kind of flurry of flames, and it looks like activity and warmth, and oh great, the fire's going, but how quickly does it burn out and it goes back to nothing? Compare that to a lump of coal that you put on. There's no big like smoke and flames. It takes a while to start burning, doesn't it? But once it does, it just gives this steady energy, steady warmth, sustainable, way more sustainable than the twigs. So the twigs are sugar. Sticks are carbohydrates in general. Coal, what do you think coal is in terms of nutrition? I'll give you a clue. Begins with P. Protein. And if we're in ketosis, if we're in nutritional ketosis, then fats also, and maybe even more so, produce this very steady energy. But if you're not in ketosis, then your best macronutrient to include early on in the day is protein. So when you eat sugar, your body rapidly absorbs it, causing your blood sugar levels to spike. And this sudden surge forces your pancreas to release a flood of insulin to bring those levels back down. That will then often lead to a crash that leaves you feeling tired, irritable, and craving and reaching for the next sugary fix. So over time, this roller coaster of highs and lows can really, it takes its stress on your emotions, on your body. It disrupts your energy, and it makes it even harder to break free from sugar's grip. So this matters because cravings are often physiological, not mental, emotional, or even moral. We could say that's bad, that's good, eating sugar is bad. And we're putting these moral and emotional judgments on it. And sometimes it's just, if you've eaten sugar, your body will physiologically start craving it again because of what I've just mentioned, the whole blood sugar roller coaster thing. So balancing your sugar gives fewer physiological urges. So here's a tip on how to do this. Build what I call a PFF breakfast. I coach my clients through PFFGAP as print, which, is a whole different conversation. Maybe I'll do a podcast on that later, on foods to include in your everyday diet. But let's start with PFF, a PFF breakfast: protein, fat, and fiber. So you want a healthy protein, healthy fat, maybe even like saturated fat, heaven forbid, saturated animal fat, which is actually good and necessary for your body, and fiber. So you could have something like eggs or Greek yogurt for protein. You could have avocado, you could have butter, or even meat, like fatty cuts of meat for breakfast as your fat and protein. And then for fibre, you could have a handful of berries, you could have sautéed greens, some sauerkraut, kimchi, all as a part of your breakfast. Now, maybe you're thinking, that doesn't sound like a breakfast, that sounds like an evening meal. Well, I would encourage you to think differently about your breakfast. If you're used to cereal and milk, for example, again, high carb, high sugar, mostly full of junk, then start thinking about breakfast as much more, in terms of proteins and good healthy fats and fibre. So don't be afraid of vegetables for breakfast. Honestly, I've often had a curry for breakfast. I've often had beef burgers for breakfast, roast chicken. It's just, and I'm so used to it now. And I tell you what, it will stabilize your energy way more. So step 3 is to crowd out, don't cut out. Restriction often triggers rebellion. It's human nature. And conversely, addition creates ease. So instead of saying, I'm going to cut out sugar and thereby causing a kind of vacuum somewhat, then instead of doing that, we're going to add in one nourishing swap. So one healthy food swap before removing anything. So think of it this way. I will have water before my morning coffee, always. Or we could have a handful of pumpkin seeds before a sweet snack. Or swapping soda water for sparkling water with lime and stevia, as I had yesterday. So delicious. Organic lime juice with a little bit of stevia and topped up with sparkling mineral water. Way nicer than any sodas with a sulfamine K, sucralose, aspartame, and all those other highly toxic, neurotoxic, carcinogenic artificial sweeteners. So do this with sugar, and this is one of the ways that it's going to make it effortless for you, is by crowding out the unhealthy sugar, by crowding in the good healthy stuff. And as you add these things in, you'll find that your cravings naturally start to dissipate and maybe even go altogether. Step 4 is to identify your sugar moments. Cravings often cluster around triggers, so it could be a 3 p.m. slump in the afternoon for you. It could be post-dinner relaxation on the sofa. It could be when you get home from work and shut the door, a sudden feeling of relief and desire for comfort. It could be a stressful situation. So here's a little action for you on this. For 3 days, write down when cravings hit you and what you were feeling and where you were, because often it's these associative environmental things that cause the trigger. So pair then each trigger with a plan. So 3 p.m. sugar slump, instead have ready a protein snack and resolve to go for a brisk 5-minute walk. Only 5 minutes, not half an hour, not 2 hours, a brisk 5-minute walk with a protein snack. That's going to make all the difference. It's going to make all the difference. If your cravings hit after dinner, resolve to have a herbal tea and a 10-minute tidy and a psalm, for example. Pick some things that are going to work for you. The key to so much in life is proactivity, isn't it? We don't want to be relegated to passivity. The enemy comes in strongly where there's a passive mind. We're told to be vigilant, sober-minded. So do these things in a proactive, front-footed way. We're in the army of God, and so we are to be advancing, not passively sitting back and letting our flesh, the world, the devil impose upon us. Step 5 is to replace the reward. We've been trained, if you're anything like most of us, we've been trained since children that sugar is often a complete stand-in. It's a surrogate for comfort, celebration, relief, reward. It's somebody's birthday. Let's have a sugary cake. You've somebody's passed their school exams. Let's have some sweets and a cake. You know, for anything, bring and share at church. Let's all bring cakes and biscuits. So we want to replace that. And this can take a little bit of time of just rewiring your brain to not associate reward and celebration with sugar. So here's my tip for you. Create a comfort menu that you actually like. So instead of comfort, celebration, sugar, we're going to go, okay, comfort. What brings you comfort? And I need to do this because as I've just been on holiday in Cyprus and it was beautifully warm. I loved it. I was wandering around in shorts and vest for 2 weeks, swimming in water that was like bath water. And I've come back to England and it's cold and I hate the cold. And yeah, so for me, if I'm not careful, my tendency is to go and comfort eat to try and warm up, which doesn't make sense because it doesn't actually warm me up. So instead, I can have a warm shower. I can do a bit of movement, do a bit of dance, go for a walk, do some stretching exercises. So I'd encourage you to do something similar. So what is comforting to you? It could be a warm shower. It could be putting on some music that you like, a worship playlist, call a friend. Energy. If you want something for energy, instead of sugar, step outside for some sunlight, 20 air squats, stretch. If you want something for calm, do breath prayer. Inhale, deeply inhale and exhale and just thank the Lord for, some things that you're grateful for, or make a petition. Lord, please help me with this, or please, would you speak to me on this, or pray for a friend. Do those things for 2 minutes. So to recap on that, we're going to create and this is exciting, right? It's using our imagination, our God-given mind to come up with new ways of thinking that are helpful and actually will bring you joy. So create yourself a comfort menu. Step 6 is to hydrate and mineralize. So we're tackling here a purely physiological root, often of cravings. Dehydration and low minerals. So when I say minerals, we're talking specifically salt, potassium, calcium, magnesium. Those are your alkaline electrolyte minerals. And if those things are low, it can actually mimic hunger and trigger sugar cravings. So target having 2 to 3 litres of water daily with a pinch of mineral salt. So Himalayan pink salt, rock salt, sea salt, and a squeeze of lemon. That lemon juice is mineral rich, and include mineral rich foods, alkaline leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, salmon, olives. Add magnesium rich options into your evening routine. So I will often have a magnesium supplement before bed, which calms your nervous system. So yeah, that will be a really good tool to have in your overcoming sugar tool belt. Okay, so step 7 on how to detox from sugar without the shame spiral is to gain knowledge and wisdom, and specifically knowledge and wisdom on what sugar does to your body physiologically. Oftentimes we just think, oh, sugar's not that bad for me, or we don't actually understand the implications, the physiological ins and outs of what it actually does and the destruction. So a game changer for me on the whole sugar front was, and I actually just quit sugar overnight years ago when I watched this video, is a presentation by Dr. Robert Lustig that's available on YouTube called Sugar, the Bitter Truth. If you want to have your eyes opened to how destructive sugar is, then watch that video. This is available as part of my sugar detox in faith plan as well. So do go and grab that, and there's links and a bit of blurb on that video. But that is a really good way to add knowledge and wisdom on this topic. Proverbs 18:15 says, the heart of the prudent acquires knowledge and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. So, yeah. So my challenge for you in this is to write down the action steps that I've given you and practice them. Start one at a time if you want, but do them. Faith without works is dead, and so is just having head knowledge without actually putting it into practice. So go and start putting it into practice and reap the benefits rather than feeling stuck in a sugar addiction craving pattern. Remember, Romans 8:37 tells us, yet in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. So praise Jesus. We are beloved and free in him. So let's walk more in that freedom. So do, just as a reminder, go and grab my Sugar Detox in Faith plan at healthinfaith.com. It gives you simple, step-by-step, actionable pathways, or a pathway to reduce sugar and quit sugar addiction for good, but still being able to enjoy the sweet foods that you love. So I'll look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you. Have a wonderful week in the Lord. I hope today's episode of Health in Faith blessed and inspired you. If it did, would you take just 30 seconds to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts? It means a lot to me and helps others find this life-giving message. Snap a screenshot of your review and email it to me for your free copy of my popular recipe book, Temple Fuel, 40 healthy, high-protein meals to burn fat, energize your walk, and transform your health. Until next time, may God bless your body, your heart, and your walk with him, and I'll see you back here next week.